What is going on, everybody? This is MYG Jeffy T 3285, and I'm here with another training camp update around the New York Giants, as we're just only a couple of days away now from the first preseason game for the New York Giants against the New England Patriots on August 11th at 8 p.m. So we're just pretty much right back into New York Giants football as we continue into training camp this offseason, and we get inch closer and closer to the beginning of the NFL season, which right now is a little bit less than 5 weeks away from when we finally kick the football off and the start of another New York Giants season. Now, some more news and notes that have been coming out of training camp. In regards to players like Darius Slayton, who's been one of the subjects of this training camp so far, Darius Slayton is continuing to be a guy that is just not being able to take advantage of the opportunities in front of him, with other wide receivers still on the mend and the chance for Slayton to still make an impact, and right now he's just not doing it. He's right now been running with the twos. He actually was even running with the threes, the third team, during the New York Giants Fan Fest scrimmage this past Saturday night. So that's not a very good sign for Darius Slayton. This past Friday night. So it's not a very good sign for Darius Slayton going into the rest of training camp. And Darius Slayton has got to try to make an impact during these preseason games for the rest of this offseason, because it's not a good sign if Darius Slayton cannot find a way to overlap guys like Richie James, Colin Johnson, Austin Prohl, C.J. Board, David Sills, Alex Bachman. These guys are all starting to overlap Darius Slayton coming into the season, and especially like we've mentioned, many Giants have mentioned, the Giants can cut or trade Darius Slayton at the end of this offseason. While I still believe Slayton has a type of role that could be important for this Giants offense, it's not inconceivable to see the former 5th-round pick out in 2020 be on the outside looking in for the New York Giants. 2019. He could be on the outside looking in for the New York Giants and might not make this roster for the 2022 NFL season. Other guys, like Ben Bredeson. Ben Bredeson has been getting snaps now with the second team offensive line in terms of the offensive guard position. He's been getting snaps at right guard, center, left guard, all over the place on the interior offensive line. And a lot of it has to do with the unfortunate injury news surrounding McEnroe, who had to retire due to a neck injury, or is going to be retiring due to a neck injury, and of course, 5th-round pick of this last draft, Marcus McKethan, going down with the torn ACL, and he'll be out for the rest of the season. So you're going to see Ben Bredeson moving all around that offensive line, as well as guys like Josh Azudu, who's now probably going to be the primary offensive guard coming off the bench in case somebody else needs to spell for an injury. And this past practice that happened this past Sunday, Andrew Thomas was a little bit gimpy, coming out of one of his practice reps. Now, he did continue for the rest of practice without coming out of any reps, but at the same time, you have to worry about Andrew Thomas's ankle going into the season, because of the fact that he's still nursing that ankle injury that he did have surgery on not once but twice going forward. So you have to worry about Andrew Thomas, that he can maintain his health going into the season. That's the one concern with him. And of course, Shane Lemieux is looking a lot better, and he's looking stronger now as he's locking down that left guard position going into the season. And he seems to be all the way back from his injury last year in training camp when he tore his patella tendon. So it's good news that you like to hear from Shane Lemieux, and even Nick Gates is starting to progress a little bit more from his injury that he suffered against the Washington Commanders. So you love hearing that from Nick Gates coming back from that injury. And of course, the New York Giants, according to Dan Duggan of The Athletic, the New York Giants offensive brass were looking at more offensive linemen and could be talking about bringing in some more offensive linemen, with the fact that they did lose McEnroe and Marcus McKethan. So don't be surprised if the New York Giants add another offensive lineman come this Monday, Tuesday, just to bring in more depth, because of the concern with the type of depth they have right now on that offensive line. I think it makes too much sense that you add more depth to this offensive line going forward. Now, a couple of guys that were on the sidelines during practice, David Sills, Rodarius Williams, they weren't practicing at all due to some nagging injuries going forward, but it's nothing really to be concerned about. And of course, some other guys that might be coming back from injury. Sterling Shepard was cutting a little bit more in practice. He was looking sharper in his routes. Maybe that might be an indication that Shepard might be a little bit closer to returning from his Achilles injury. Still might be managing his reps. Still might want to see more from the seventh-year wide receiver from Oklahoma and seeing what he can do. But it might be a sign with the type of cutting and running that Shepard's been doing in practice that he could be inching closer to coming back from his injury. Saquon Barkley looks like he's all the way back from his ACL injury, second year coming back from that injury. He's running north and south in practice, which you love to hear. That's the type of running you want to see from Saquon Barkley going forward. And Blake Martinez, coming back from his ACL injury last year, seems to be participating a lot more in reps with the first team off defense. So that's a great sign you hear that Blake Martinez seems to be progressing a lot more from his injury last year. And I think overall, with the New York Giants, is that the Giants seem to be a lot more ahead in terms of their offensive line run blocking than they do from their pass blocking. So I think one of the things you might see during the beginning of this season is you might see a lot more run heavy offense from the New York Giants going into the season and a lot less passing. They're still going to get enough passing as Dable loves running those 3 wide receiver, 11 personnel concepts. But I think they're going to rely a little bit more on the run offense while this offensive line continues to improve on their pass blocking, learns to gel together as an offensive line, as well as, I think they're just going to want to see what this run blocking does more compared to the pass blocking, because I think the pass blocking takes a little bit more time than the run blocking for an offensive line going forward. So I like what I hear when it comes to that. Now, in terms of some of the other things that I've been hearing, in terms of the defense, I do like what I'm hearing that Aaron Robinson seems to be doing a lot better with his coverage skills, and he seems to be one of the better players right now for his coverage going forward. And Darnay Holmes, his play in terms of he just seems to be very hit and miss. While I love the fact that he's taking advantage and he's making some of those great defensive plays, he's becoming a ball hawk for the team. He is still getting burnt in terms of people burning him on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm a little worried about that. Not completely, but I'm a little worried about Darnay Holmes right now. But I still think he's got the inside track to that slot cornerback job going into the season because of the way he's been a ball hawk going forward. Julian Love, I think Julian Love has got a snare on that safety position for the Giants in terms of opposite of Xavier McKinney. I think Julian Love is really becoming that guy that can play all over this defense, but I think he's doing a solid job adapting to Wink Martindale's defense going forward. And great injury news as Dane Belton yesterday is now not in a sling anymore after breaking his collarbone a couple of days ago, and that could be a good sign that Dane Belton could be on the mend, and he is possibly going to be back for training camp, and he's going to be possibly back for the first week of the season. They might still hold him out for a game or two, but the fact he hasn't been placed on the PUP list yet, and the fact that he is now out of his sling, might be an indication that the rookie fourth-round pick might be fifth-round pick might be back a lot sooner for the safety position going forward. And also like what I'm hearing from Trenton Thompson and Yusuf Corker in terms of the undrafted free agents, in terms of the depth for the safety position going forward. Still a lot of question marks though, and even Darian Beavers is starting to make his impact from the linebacker position. But at the same time, while I do like some of the things I hear, we still have not seen these guys go out there and perform yet in terms of a game situation against opposing teams' defense and offenses. That's where you're going to get your real test going forward. So I really want to see what these guys can do in terms of the defense going forward. Now I have to talk about this because this has been apparently the talk of the Twitter. The infamous Kenny Gallaudet route in the scrimmage that happened at FanFest and Daniel Jones throwaway. Everybody's been talking about this. Credit to my guy, Ash Money, that he tweeted out there about Daniel Jones and Kenny Gallaudet not seem to be in sync, and that's the whole thing right there. A lot of people are blaming Kenny Gallaudet because of the sluggish route he's come out of, and that route that he ran, a curl route, which I don't know why you're running a curl route with a 6'4" receiver who has no separation skills and is slow as molasses. But hey, you're just trying to see what the guy can do. I put it on the fact that these two just have no chemistry right now with one another. Their chemistry right now, besides one practice rep, has just been sluggish. They just can't seem to come together in terms of their route concepts. Their timing is off. Their chemistry is off. And that's not a good sign when you're going into the season hoping your wide receiver one is going to be able to make an impact going forward. So, while a lot of people are making a big deal out of this, they're blaming Gallaudet, which is true, and even some blaming Daniel Jones because why is he throwing the ball away? I blame it on the fact that these two have no chemistry and consistent chemistry going forward. You need to get your timing down with your quarterback and your wide receivers going forward. And it takes time sometimes for a quarterback and a wide receiver to get on the same page and know exactly where they're going to be going in terms of their route concepts going forward. It takes years sometimes for them to be able to do that. So, while I do think Gallaudet was a little sluggish and a little bit lazy on his route, and Daniel Jones did throw the ball away, I don't know why he didn't give a better throw at that point. I still blame it more on the fact that these two are still working on their timing and their chemistry going forward. And who knows how long it's going to take until these two can get on the same page. So I understand why people are freaking out. I understand that people are not happy about Gallaudet with his lazy route running. If Kenny Gallaudet does that during the season, sit him down and put somebody else in there that is willing to go out there and run the route not only better, but not also come off of it not as lazy. And if Daniel Jones, give your guy a little bit more of an opportunity going forward in terms of that throw. But I still think it's more Gallaudet than Jones. But overall, you don't love seeing that between your wide receiver one and your quarterback. Got to get this timing down going forward. So work on that route concept. Work on the timing a little bit more. Daniel Jones, Kenny Gallaudet, and the rest of the wide receivers. Because you're going to need that if you're going to run this type of scheme that Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka are hoping to go to this season. I mean, overall, expectations, I understand if everybody wants to be excited with this team going forward, but at the same time, this team is still a work in progress. I've said that in my my previous videos, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself. But this team is still a work in progress going forward, everybody. You have to expect some growing pains with the running, with the run concept, the passing concept, the secondary, the linebacking core. Everything is going to take time. It takes time for a team to eventually build up the type of roster that you're looking for, the chemistry on the offensive line, defensive line, learning the offensive and defensive scheming, overall everything. So if it takes a little bit of time, you have to wait until everything is put together. Some of the things I like hearing, some of the things I don't like hearing, but it's still training camp. We still haven't seen these guys get on the field yet, and we have to still wait to see what these guys can do when it comes to the regular season. So that's just my little news, notes, and nuggets. Some things I might have missed, but I'll put it into the comment section of other things that I've heard going in from the New York Giants lately. And remember, we're only a few days away from the first game against the New England Patriots on Thursday, August 11th. So I have to see how this team looks in game situations and what players can impress and what players fall on their face in the first preseason game going into the New York Giants preseason. So if you like this video, please hit the like button below. Turn on the bell for notifications of the next short or video that drops surrounding the New York Giants. Sub up to NYG Jeffy T3285 for more breaking news updates and chatter surrounding the New York Giants, Brooklyn Nets, New York Mets, WWE Wrestling, as well as food for thought. And leave your comments below on some of the news and notes and nuggets that you've been hearing about the New York Giants going forward. What you like you're hearing, what you don't like. If you think that some of these plays are being a little bit thrown out of hand, it's being a little bit overblown, or if you think some of these things need to be thrown out there and should be taken more seriously with some of the plays and some of the concepts you've been hearing and some of the players not giving the type of effort you're expecting. So I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Monday morning, afternoon, and evening. Let's go, New York Football Giants. Take it easy, and remember, Together Blue all the way. Let's go, New York Football Giants, everyone.